Anytime you're diving in a wreck that potentially has a loss of life, it is a sobering moment. It gives you purpose. You want to identify the wreck so they're not forgotten.
Today, Mike and Jimmy are investigating one of the Triangle's most perplexing small boat disappearances. A brand new luxury yacht called the Saba Bank that was last seen on March 10, 1974.
The Saba Bank was crewed by 4 guys out of Atlantic City, New Jersey.
The captain's name was Cy Zentner, and he had with him his cousin, Elliot Cohen, as well as a contractor by the name of Johnny Tarquinio. And then there was Raphael Kaplan from the company that owned the boat.
And they had just purchased the Saba Bank for $300,000.
With plans to rent the luxury yacht out as a dive charter boat, the crew needed to do a test run or shakedown cruise to get out any kinks. And what a terrific time of year to get out of the Northeast.
It could just be the fact that they wanted to escape the winter cold and they get a free trip down to the Caribbean.
Strangely, for such a voyage, they told no one their schedule.
They did not leave any indication of what their course was going to be or where they were planning to go.
The weather is perfect for smooth sailing in the Caribbean. Witnesses see the boat in the Bahamas and Jamaica. And we know it was supposed to return to Miami. 13 days into their trip, Tarquinio sends home a short telegram via radio.
One of the crew members sent out a radio message to his family on March 23rd, 1974, and said that the trip is going to be longer. And that was the last message, and the Saba Bank disappeared, never to be seen again.
The Coast Guard begins an extensive search. Neither the yacht nor the bodies of the 4 crew members are ever found.
You know, Dave, how much do you know about organized crime and what was going off the coast of Florida in the 1970s?
Well, other than seeing a couple of movies and some television shows, I mean, you certainly know that it was a crazy time for drug running. What I've done is I've reached out to Joe Spillane. Joe is an expert on drug trafficking at this particular point. He's written many books and articles about this.
Joe, thanks for meeting us.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know that we're investigating a very bizarre mystery in the Bermuda Triangle.
If you mention nefarious, in 1974 in Florida, you're talking about the drug trade. These are the boom years.
Drug enforcement officials admit that they are only stopping a small number of the marijuana shipments coming into this country.
This is where an enormous quantity of marijuana is coming into the United States. It's really the Wild West.
Sort of like the gold rush. I guess pretty much anybody is trying to get in on this.
That includes South American cartels, American mobsters, and local opportunists.
A single successful run could net them hundreds of thousands of dollars. It becomes pretty attractive, not just to the professionals, but to the amateurs as well.
There's no hard evidence, but could the 4 men aboard the Saba Bank have been looking to make a quick buck? Did the crew go into business with the wrong kind of people? And did it lead to their disappearance? All we know is that after Jamaica, Johnny sends that last message home.
And that was it. The Saba Bank disappeared, never to be seen again.
But it's new evidence Spillane offers that leads Dave and Wayne to another possibility. That the crew disappeared not because they were involved in a criminal enterprise, but because they were victims of one.
So the interesting thing is congressional investigators report there could be hundreds of ships that are potentially victims of hijacking. Congress actually holds a hearing on the hijacking of ships in the Caribbean, but it's months after the Saba Bank's disappearance.
Federal officials learned that 200 sailors have gone missing due to suspected piracy. And the report states that the Saba Bank's crew might be among them.
And it says here, law enforcement officials assume most or all have been murdered. So they didn't let anybody go.
These guys would not hesitate to use violence if it furthered their ends.
If Saba Bank was hijacked and her crew murdered, where did the hijackers take the boat? Previous searches for the Saba Bank by the Coast Guard were unsuccessful. But no one looked in the waters off Miami, the intended final stop on the yacht's trip, and also a well-known smuggling port for pirates in the 70s. So that's exactly where Mike Barnett, Jimmy Gadomski, and Kiki D are headed.
We need to find something more definitive to help us identify if Paul's wreck is the Saba Bank.
It's pretty clear that Paul's wreck is actually a fiberglass hull vessel, just like the Saba Bank. We found a dive tank and a regulator attached to the dive tank. As we cleaned off that top of the scuba tank a little bit, we saw a visual inspection sticker.
And as they swim to the stern, something new catches their attention.
As we're cleaning the transom off, we're seeing an S.
I have a plastic scraper tool that gets any barnacles and damage the hull. It revealed another letter, and then another letter.
4 letters are starting to appear.
And then we come to a dead end because the transom is broken halfway down. Kind of like a crossword puzzle now. We gotta figure out what's missing there.
Mike and Jimmy are ready to present their evidence to historian David O'Keefe.
I was very careful of what we were moving around, what we were picking up this time.
Yeah.
But we did find some really interesting lettering at the stern.
Yeah, I can see here. I mean, the footage is amazing.
Yeah. As we're cleaning off from left to right, we're seeing E, an S, and a P, and then what looks to be an I.
Now we're certain that we have ESPI. So we have a big mystery on our hands here.
Sadly, it's not what they're expecting to see.
That could be the full name, SB. What that means, if it's a nickname, it could be the owner's wife or a significant other or a child. We don't really know yet, but it's SB.
What about the possibility that this is the Saba Bank and that maybe it had been used all these years later under a different name?
It's very unlikely that this would have been operating for several decades under the nose of the Coast Guard and everyone else going through clearing customs back and forth between the Bahamas and Miami. That would have been red flags all over the place.
And the wreck's dive gear offers further confirmation. This is not the Saba Bank.
We ended up finding a dive tank.
Wow, look at that.
As divers, we know that there is markings on dive tanks that they need to be visually inspected every year. So there's going to be a sticker on there with a stamp. We can date the wreck based on when this sticker was last stamped.
This visual inspection program is done annually on dive gear. So that helps us basically narrow down the date range of when this vessel probably sank.
We're actually looking right here at the top of the dive tank, and
Gotcha. This came from what year?
it was punched in the year 2000.
Ultimately, this is not the Saba Bank.
After searching numerous records, Barnett has found a match. What they thought was ESPI is actually ESP, followed by the Roman numeral 4.
The ESP-4 was a 55-foot motor yacht built by Ocean Yachts in 1983. And local knowledge indicates this vessel in late 2001 struck a submerged pipeline off Miami, ripping her running gear off and causing her to sink to the bottom. It was definitely an accident, because it went down with everything. We found cameras, we found dive gear, radios. It wasn't stripped down, it wasn't sunk on purpose. We do know everyone survived the incident.
As for the Saba Bank,
In 1974, there were so many hijackings for drug-related purposes going off in the area that basically the Congress got involved.
The crew of the Saba Bank went into really the heart of darkness.
This was very much of a human story, to say the least.
unfortunately, If the Saba Bank was stolen by pirates, as now seems likely, the yacht and her crew may never be found.